For over 60 years, Smokey Robinson has been a prominent figure in the music industry, a true icon whose contributions have shaped the landscape of soul and Motown. His velvety, smooth voice has been a vessel for emotion, carrying the hearts of listeners all over the world through timeless songs like My Girl and Tears of a Clown. As a founding member of Motown, Smokey played an integral role in creating a sound that defined an era, one that continues to resonate in the cultural fabric of music to this day. He wasn't just a singer or songwriter, but a cultural touchstone, admired not only for his undeniable talent, but for his ability to connect deeply with his audience. He built a reputation as a smooth talker, a gentleman who exuded grace, charm, and warmth, a persona that captivated everyone he met. But as legendary as he was in the public eye, there was always an air of mystery surrounding Smokey. While his professional life, his achievements, his success, his music had been widely celebrated, his personal life remained shrouded in secrecy. Rumors swirled for years, whispers about secretive relationships, betrayal, and the struggles of maintaining a flawless public image while grappling with the pressures of fame. Yet these whispers never gained much traction, as Smokey's carefully crafted public persona overshadowed any speculation. Fans were content to adore the man whose music brought so much joy, and few dared to look beyond the polished exterior to question what lay beneath. But legends, as we know, often carry more complexities than the public imagines. The truth behind their perfect images can be far more intricate and, at times, much darker than anyone realizes. While the public may have turned a blind eye to the quiet rumors, Smokey's own journey had been carrying a heavy, hidden truth, a truth that would eventually come to light and shake the very foundation of the image he'd so meticulously crafted. At the age of 84, Smokey Robinson, the man who had long been seen as the epitome of grace and charisma, was about to reveal something that would change everything. For decades, he had weathered the storms of fame with the poise and sophistication of a seasoned artist, never letting his personal life overshadow his professional accomplishments. His career, built on decades of iconic music and a glowing public image, seemed like a storybook. But behind the smiling face and eloquent interviews, Smokey carried a secret that had been hidden from the public for most of his life. One bright morning, Smokey sat down for what seemed like another routine interview. The journalist, known for their direct and probing style, posed a question that had been on many people's minds for years. There have been rumors about your relationships, particularly an affair that was whispered about by insiders. Is there any truth to those rumors? For a moment, the room fell silent. Smokey, who was usually quick with a witty or charming reply, hesitated. His calm and composed demeanor began to falter. For the first time in years, he didn't look like the legend everyone adored. He looked like a man, vulnerable and burdened by a weight that had been carried in the shadows. With a heavy sigh, Smokey leaned forward. His eyes, once steady and sure, seemed distant, as if lost in the memories of a time long past. "There's something I've never told anyone," Smokey began, his voice softer than usual, almost as though he was speaking to himself. "A secret I've carried with me all these years." The journalist, sensing the gravity of the moment, sat in silence, allowing the weight of Smokey's words to settle in. The room, once filled with the comfortable rhythm of an interview, now felt heavy with anticipation. Smokey's voice grew more steady as he continued, but each word seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime of regret. "I had an affair," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "At the height of my career, when everything seemed perfect. But the affair wasn't with someone from the public eye. It wasn't a fan or another celebrity. It was with someone very close to me, someone from my own inner circle." The revelation struck like lightning, the room stunned into silence. Here was a man who had built a reputation as the perfect gentleman, an icon whose every move seemed calculated to maintain that image, now confessing to a deeply personal betrayal. The affair wasn't just about a lapse in judgment, it was about the betrayal of trust of those closest to him: friends, family, colleagues, and, of course, the millions of fans who had adored him for decades. For a moment, the room remained silent, the shock of his words hanging thick in the air. Finally, the journalist, still reeling from the admission, asked the inevitable question: who was this person? But Smokey, now more vulnerable than ever, remained silent. His face revealed little, but it was clear that this was not just a confession. It was an emotional release and opening of a door that had remained closed for too long. The public had always suspected there were things hiding behind the curtain of Smokey's perfect image. But the depth of the truth, its complexity and personal ramifications, was more than anyone could have anticipated. The weight of his admission continued to settle in the room, an air of tension thick in the atmosphere. Smokey, usually full of charm and warmth, now spoke with a raw honesty that had been absent from his public persona for decades. His voice, once full of confidence, now trembled as he recounted the affair. "It happened at a time when everything was moving so fast," Smokey began, his voice strained, "when I had the world at my feet. I was young, and fame does something to you. It blinds you. And at that point, I wasn't just Smokey Robinson. I was a symbol of everything people believed in, everything they loved about Motown, about music. But behind closed doors, I was struggling with the pressure of that role, the expectations, the temptations. I wasn't prepared for it." As he spoke, Smokey's expression tightened, his face contorted with the weight of guilt and regret. The affair, as he would later explain, wasn't just a brief lapse in judgment. It was a complex, ongoing relationship that lasted for years. The betrayal extended far beyond his wife. It was to his closest confidants, his colleagues, and his fans, the very people who had put him on a pedestal and believed in the myth of the perfect Smokey Robinson. "I didn't know how to deal with it," he confessed. "How could I? I was scared that if people knew, they'd never look at me the same, that this secret would tear everything apart. So I kept it hidden for years. I thought I was protecting my career, protecting my family. But in the end, I was only protecting myself from the truth." The room remained silent as his words resonated deeply with those present. There was no denying the emotional weight of the moment, and Smokey, now facing his past, appeared to come to terms with a life that had been both extraordinary and deeply flawed. The revelation, though deeply personal, now began to ripple outward, setting off a chain reaction of reactions across the media, social circles, and the public at large. The fans who had once adored Smokey found themselves grappling with conflicting emotions. Some felt a sense of betrayal. The man who had sung about love, devotion, and emotional honesty was now exposed as someone whose personal life was filled with flaws. His perfect image had been shattered, leaving many questioning how they could still hold on to the man they had idolized. Others, however, expressed empathy. They recognized that celebrities, despite their fame, are not immune to the same struggles and mistakes as anyone else. For some, Smokey's honesty was seen as a brave act, one that showed vulnerability in a world often ruled by secrecy. The media's reaction was, as expected, polarized. Some outlets defended Smokey, acknowledging his legendary status and the right to personal redemption. They argued that while his affair was painful, it was part of a larger narrative that couldn't overshadow his immense contributions to music and culture. Other outlets, however, focused on the betrayal, calling him a hypocrite for hiding such a significant chapter of his life for so long. Within Smokey's family, the impact of the revelation was felt deeply. Behind closed doors, conversations unfolded in hushed tones. Some family members were hurt, feeling betrayed by both the affair and the public nature of the confession. For those who had been unaware of the affair's existence, the emotional toll was profound. Others within the family chose to stand by Smokey, understanding that human flaws in relationships are complex and multifaceted. As the story spread and the public debate over celebrity morality grew, the fallout from Smokey's revelation continued to evolve. Questions began to surface about the nature of fame itself. Does the public have a right to expect perfection from the stars they admire? Should the private lives of celebrities remain private, or is it inevitable that their flaws will eventually be exposed? Through all the chaos and debate, one thing became clear. Smokey Robinson was no longer just the legend who shaped an era of music. He was now a man, a human being, whose flaws and mistakes had become part of his story. His confession, while painful, had set him on a path of self-reflection and growth. He had reclaimed his narrative, not as the flawless idol, but as a man who had faced his mistakes, accepted them, and chosen to move forward with honesty and vulnerability. As Smokey Robinson's confession made waves across the world, the reverberations of his revelation began to shift the narrative about celebrity and personal responsibility. People everywhere, fans, critics, and even other celebrities, found themselves grappling with the complexities of fame, the choices that come with it, and the vulnerability that so many celebrities, like Smokey, had long concealed. In an era where the lines between public and private lives are increasingly blurred by social media and constant scrutiny, Smokey's admission became a powerful reminder of the human nature behind the public figure. For Smokey himself, the process of confronting his past had not been easy. In the days and weeks following the interview, he received a mixture of messages, some of support, some of criticism, and some of outright condemnation. His fans who had adored him for decades now saw him in a new light. Some held on to their admiration, seeing his openness as a sign of growth and humility. Others felt a deep sense of betrayal, as though the man who had serenaded them with songs of love and heartache had now shown a side that was less than perfect. But Smokey knew that his journey was far from over. Though he had lifted the veil on his secret, there was still much to reconcile. He reached out to those closest to him, his family, friends, and the people who had worked alongside him throughout his illustrious career. The conversations were difficult. His wife, though initially hurt by the revelation, understood the complexity of their relationship and the pressures he had faced. She too had seen the toll that fame had taken on Smokey, and while forgiveness wasn't instant, they began to rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty that had long been absent. In his conversations with fellow musicians and colleagues, Smokey found an unexpected sense of stress. Many of them had faced their own struggles with fame and had dealt with similar temptations. They empathized with him, recognizing that the choices he had made, though flawed, were not out of character for someone living under the intense microscope of stardom. Some even saw his bravery in sharing his truth as a form of redemption, not just for himself, but for others in the industry who had long hidden their own struggles. In the months following his confession, Smokey began a journey of healing. He made a conscious decision to use his platform for greater honesty, speaking about his experiences in interviews and public appearances with a new sense of transparency. He also began speaking out about the pressures of fame, encouraging younger artists to prioritize mental health, honesty, and emotional well-being in a world that often values perfection over authenticity. It became clear that Smokey Robinson was no longer the man who had serenaded audiences with love songs from the stage. He had become a voice for self-reflection and growth, a man who was no longer afraid to show his imperfections. As time passed, his legacy shifted from one of flawless charm and unblemished talent to a more nuanced narrative, one that included moments of regret, pain, and ultimately redemption. He continued to write music, but now his songs took on a different tone. They were still filled with the same lyrical beauty that had made him famous, but they also carried a sense of vulnerability that had not been present before. He wrote songs about forgiveness, about learning from mistakes, and about the beauty of being human despite one's flaws. Some of these new songs became some of the most poignant pieces of his career, resonating with listeners on a deeper, more personal level. Eventually, the public began to see Smokey not as a fallen idol, but as a human being who had faced his demons, admitted his wrongs, and made the conscious choice to move forward. His music, his legacy, and his story became a testament to the power of vulnerability and the importance of facing one's truths, no matter how difficult they may be. In the years that followed, Smokey Robinson would continue to receive accolades for his contributions to music. But now, his place in history wasn't just about the songs he had written or the records he had broken. It was about how he had reinvented himself, not just as a performer, but as a person who had navigated the complexities of fame, love, and regret. He had become an example of redemption, not through perfection, but through the courage to be real. Smokey's story had evolved from a tale of untouchable greatness to one of relatability and resilience. As he approached the twilight of his career, he found peace in knowing that his greatest legacy wasn't his ability to write the perfect song or deliver the perfect performance. It was his willingness to be imperfect, to be open, and to show that even legends can be human.